In this video, I'm heading into the backcountry of Rocky Mountain National Park, hoping to catch a beautiful sunrise. Alright, looking on the map here, I'm going to be starting down here at the Long Lake Trailhead, going up to this junction and then up the Ypsilon Lake Trail to Ypsilon Lake. In total, it's going to be about a 9-mile round-trip hike, gaining about 2,200 feet along the way going up. So it'll be a nice, challenging hike, no doubt. Let's get started. I'm up here in Rocky Mountain National Park at the Long Lake Trailhead. It is 3 a.m. I must be lonely. That's a little reference for all you 90s music fans out there. It is 3 a.m. and I'm getting ready to start up toward Ypsilon Lake. I hope to catch a nice sunrise light up there on Mount Ypsilon this morning. I'll be hiking in the dark for at least a couple hours to get up there. So, off we go. All right, taking a little breather here. I'm a little over a mile in on the Long Lake Trail. It's been a steady incline all the way, but hard enough that I quickly stripped off both my jackets because I was sweating too much. But not so hard that I can't just keep plodding along as long as I pace myself. But you can probably hear the roaring river down below me. This is a section of the river, and I'm not going to get too close to the edge here, but this is a section that was flooded out both during the 1982 Long Lake flood, when the dam burst on the lake and sent a giant flash flood down the river, as well as the September 2013 flood that washed it out some more. So from looking at pictures, I know that this edge drops down probably about 50 feet to the riverbed. And it's not exactly stable because it's been washed out so much. So I'm going to stay back from that edge. But you can hear the roaring river down below as evidence that we are close by. So I'm going to continue on up the trail. And we'll keep on plodding along. All right, I have reached the trail junction where we split off to the left on the Ypsilon Lake Trail to head up towards that lake and Ypsilon Mountain above. About 1.5 miles in, so I'm about a third of the way up the total way going up, which is about 4.5 miles from the trailhead to Ypsilon Lake. Feeling pretty good so far. The trail's pretty nice, pretty easy to follow, even in the dark. Like I said, it's a steady ascent, but it's not so steep that I can't just keep plodding along as long as I pace myself. So we'll keep it going. All right, stopping to take a breather here for a minute. The Ypsilon Lake Trail section of this hike is definitely a little bit more steeper than the Lawn Lake Trail section that we started on. A lot of the times it's still that steady climb, but occasionally the grades get a little bit steeper like I'm in right now, and so I have to pause a little bit more often to catch my breath and let my heart rate stabilize. But I think I'm still on track to make it up there for sunrise, so I just got to keep plodding along. Most of the sections through here are like the lower section at about a 10% grade, but occasionally it'll jump up to 15 to 20% for a little bit, and that's where I got to slow it down and take a few more breaks. But still a nice hike through the woods. There's definitely a lot of tall pine trees through here. I'll be interested to see what all this looks like in the daylight on the way back down. So we'll keep pushing on, hiking towards that sunrise. All right, I have finally made it here to Chipmunk Lake. I'm a few minutes later to get here than I wanted to be, but I'm here and that light is kicking off, so I'm gonna get my camera out and go to work. It's beautiful. All right, now that I've fired off a few shots, I'll give you a look at the back of my camera here, give you an idea of what I'm shooting. The warmness of that sunrise light is starting to fade a little bit, but you can see the light on Mount Chiquita to the left and Mount Ypsilon a little bit to the right of center. And the surface of Chipmunk Lake here is mostly calm. So as you can see, we have a nice reflection going on in the water here as well. This is a very, very small little pond, but excellent views of the two peaks up there. From what I've seen, actually at Epsilon Lake, just a little farther, you're up against that wall below Epsilon Mountain there, and so you don't have as clear a view of that peak. So this is supposed to be the preferred shot from down here. I'll squeeze off another one there so you can see my shot. Trying to balance that reflection with the mountain peaks above, so kind of breaking the rules a little bit with my horizon line being just down the middle. But when you have reflections, you can usually get away with that. So I'm underexposing a little bit to keep the mountain peaks from blowing out the highlights. As you can see, they're brighter, and as my Osmo is struggling not to do that. And the reflection will always be darker than the thing that is being reflected. So underexposing a little bit to compensate for that, but a beautiful spot. I didn't make it here quite as soon as I wanted to, but I made it here early enough to catch some of that sunrise light, and I'm enjoying this a lot. I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's a deer heading off into the trees out there ahead of me on the trail. I was down here by the lake as the sun was coming up. And it's heading off into the trees. All right, so I finally made it up here to Ypsilon Lake. This waterfall is on the stream that feeds into the lake. just before it gets there. It's a really beautiful spot with some nice flowers and this nice waterfall coming down. So I'm capturing some shots here while it's still in the shade and I can get the longer exposures that I want. Although the top of it is starting to get sunlight on it now, but I'll show you my shot. I'll kind of give you a clear view of what I'm looking at here. I got those nice flowers down there right in front of me. I got the lower cascade there. The middle cascade with the tree branch in the middle of it. And then up above that, of course, is the upper. Beautiful little waterfall here where the creek is coming down into the lake. Wasn't sure what to expect here, how much flow there would be, but with the strong monsoon rains we've had over the last few weeks, it's flowing pretty good. Really beautiful spot, especially with most of it being in shade. Oh, my camera slipped there. That was a terrifying second. But beautiful spot. I'm going to keep firing off shots here while the balance of light is still good before the sunlight gets down in here and blasts it all out. All right, here I am on the shore of Ypsilon Lake, and I'll try and show that to you here behind me. I walked along the side of the lake for a little bit to try and find a spot with a really nice view, and I think I found that. Let me flip this around and show it to you. All right, so as I mentioned when I was down at Chipmunk Lake, my research showed me this big head wall here on the shore of Ypsilon Lake here that kind of blocks Ypsilon Mountain behind it. You can see it a little bit there. And then to the left through the trees is Chiquita Mountain. I'm definitely glad I shot the sunrise from Chipmunk Lake. A little bit more open of a view. The lake was calmer. We're catching more wind up here at Ypsilon, so it's more ripply, no reflection. But it is still a really nice spot. You can probably hear the waterfall off in the distance that I was just shooting at, where the creek comes down from the Spectacle Lakes, which are up there towards Mount Chiquita, up there on that next level, just above tree line. This is a beautiful spot to catch a snack and relax a little bit before I turn back and head back towards the trailhead. Kind of surprised because there was about 10 cars down there in the Lawn Lake trailhead when I started up at 3 a.m. But I have not seen a soul up here. Didn't look like there was anybody in the campsites that are up here by the lake. Have not seen anybody on the trail. The only other living thing I've seen was that deer as I was coming up to the lake. Not a bad thing to have it all to yourself, but a little bit surprising. All right, I have enjoyed a little snack here by the shore of Ypsilon Lake. Even took a few pictures of some of the wildflowers here by the lake, which are very nice. But the mosquitoes were starting to grab hold and make their presence known. So it's time to find my way back to the main trail and start heading back down. And see what I missed along the way in the dark, as far as the views and the wildflowers are concerned anyway. So, goodbye to Ypsilon Lake, there behind me. It's been a good morning. All right, well, I'm over halfway down. I've got a little under 2 miles to go to get back to the car. But the trip down has taught me that getting up early and hiking up in the dark to catch the sunrise was good for a number of reasons. Not the least of which is I got some good sunrise shots. I got that waterfall up there looking nice in the shade. And I had the whole basin up there around Ypsilon Lake to myself while I was up there. Coming back down, I've found that seeing all this in the daylight that it's mostly a walk through the forest with not that many open views, so I didn't really miss a whole lot on the way up, hiking up in the dark. And while I had the whole place to myself while I was up there, coming down there's been a steady stream of people coming up. So basically I just beat the crowd by starting at 3 a.m. And evidently all those other cars that were parked there in the parking lot must have gone up along Lawn Lake Trail to camp up there. So if you're going to do this and you have the motivation to start super early to get up there for sunrise, I'd recommend it for all of those reasons I just mentioned. But working my way back down the trail, hoping to be back down to the car in about an hour or so. We'll keep moving. Alright, I just passed the junction with the Lawn Lake Trail. So I'm back on that one with 1.5 miles down the hill left to go to get back to the trailhead. Definitely tiring. This is the longest hike I've done for a while. And there are supposed to be pretty significant thunderstorms moving in this afternoon, so I'm also trying to beat that. Although there's no evidence of that yet, but they do tend to come on quickly up here. So just a little ways to go. Probably about 45 minutes or so, maybe an hour. And I'll be back to the car. All right, I finally made it back to the car. In total, I was out on the trail for about 8 hours, which kind of tells you how much I was stopping to rest, especially on the way up, but even on the way down. And probably spent 30 to 40 minutes just sitting up there at Lake Ypsilon, snacking and taking it all in, all that too. So, but it's worth getting up there, and there is some sections on the lower part of Lawn Lake Trail before you split off and go up towards Ypsilon Lake that do have some decent views out over Endo Valley and Horseshoe Park area and the Alluvial Fan and all that. So there's some decent views in the lower section of the trail. We're coming down now in midday. The light wasn't that great and all that, so I didn't stop to take any pictures there. But it's definitely worth getting all the way up there to the Ypsilon Lake area and that basin up there below Ypsilon Mountain. It's a really pretty area, and I'm glad I did it, even though it was harder than I wanted it to be. But we'll wrap it up there, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.